Kumail Nanjiani is an incredibly funny comedian. I love his stand-up and I've been listening to it now for a couple of years. I really like every time he pops up in a movie and I'm really enjoying his television shows. I've seen a couple episodes of Silicon Valley and what I've seen I've liked, and I really enjoyed when he popped up in 2 episodes of Bob's Burgers as Skip Marooch. But I didn't know what to expect with this movie. Produced by Judd Apatow, but blew away Sundance. What was in stake for me when I went in to see The Big Sick?
Are you judging Pakistan's next top model?
You know how we have arranged marriage in my culture?
Oh my god, I'm so stupid. Can you imagine a world in which we end up together?
I don't know.
The Big Sick is directed by Michael Showalter and it stars Kumail Nanjiani as himself, Zoe Kazan as Emily, Holly Hunter as her mother, and Ray Romano as her father. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect going into The Big Sick. This movie blew away Sundance this year, and people were talking about it like it was the next big thing. So I was very excited to see that one of my local theaters was playing The Big Sick. I got my ticket, I sat down, and what I saw I really liked. This movie, to start off, is hilarious. And as you may know, this is a romantic comedy. And those 2 words have become sort of a dirty thing. There haven't been a lot of good romantic comedies out recently. And I'm here to say that this one definitely takes the cake. It is hilarious. And all of the romance really works. Both aspects of the genre work in this movie. And I think it has to do a lot with the writing and the performances, which for me are the 2 big things for The Big Sick. Kumail Nanjiani is a revelation. I have never seen him act this well. He pulls off all of the dramatic beats and he, of course, is hilarious in all of the comedic scenes. But Ray Romano and Holly Hunter as Emily's parents are incredible as well. I haven't seen Ray Romano do much of anything recently, and of course I don't pay a lot of attention to Ray Romano's career, but him and Holly Hunter have a great chemistry and they work incredibly well in this movie together. But I was very impressed with Zoe Kazan. She's not in this movie as much as I thought she was going to be. Now she's in it a lot, but she wasn't in the film as much as I thought, and her presence is still felt throughout the entire movie, which says a lot for what she does while she's there, and I think she puts on a heck of a performance as Emily. And again, like I said, my other big thing with this movie is the writing. I actually felt uncomfortable watching some of these scenes play out, because the way this movie is written and the way that this film is shot, a lot of it makes it seem like you're watching real events occur. And of course this is based on real events. Of course I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are scenes in this film that feel really intimate. Whether it's between Kumail and Emily, Kumail and Emily's parents, or Kumail and his family. This movie feels very intimate, and there are scenes in this movie that I feel I shouldn't be watching. What I'm saying is a tribute to the writing, because it feels almost documentary style at times. People don't talk the way they would talk in a movie. They don't say things that are over the top just to get a point across. They end a conversation in an uncomfortable place, or they end a conversation in a place that you would end a conversation. They don't always have this revelation at the end. And without sounding very strange about this comparison, I think that The Big Sick is very similar to Spotlight. You know Spotlight, the movie that won Best Picture 2 years ago? Well, this movie is one of the best written movies in recent memory, especially the dialogue. The dialogue in Spotlight blew me away because of how real it felt. And I tell you what, The Big Sick does that as well. The dialogue in this movie feels like it's real people having real conversations, and I was very impressed. The Big Sick is not the movie I expected it to be. I heard it was a romantic comedy, so I expected it to be very by the numbers romantic comedy, but it isn't that at all. Come the second act, something happens that I was not expecting. And this movie takes a turn away from the romance and more towards the cultural and social interactions that I would expect from a different kind of genre film. This movie uses comedy to make a lot of statements about culture clashing and the life of immigrant parents and immigrant children, and really the lives of everyday people. This is a movie to me, about social interaction more than it is about romance. Of course, the romance is there, but that second act of this movie really surprised me with what it had to say. And I said that this movie is funny, but I honestly feel that the comedy in this movie is more natural. It feels like it's a comedy that you could live, that this could happen to you, or that this is something that your friend might say. This movie is really comedy in the real sense, where you would use comedy to get out of an awkward situation, or you would use comedy to cope. This movie is not funny to be funny. It's funny to show the other interactions that are being discussed. Now, The Big Sick does have some issues. There are three groups in this film, you could say, and Kumail and Emily are the through lines. There's Emily's parents, and Emily is obviously the connection to that. And there's Kumail's parents, but then there's also Kumail's friends. And while I like Bo Burnham and I like Addie Bryant, I didn't think that those scenes were needed, and every time I was watching interactions between those characters and Kumail, or those characters and Emily, I didn't want to really see that. I wanted to see the other things. I was more interested in the story revolving around Kumail's family, or the story involving Emily's family, or just the main Kumail and Emily story. I didn't really need to see the interactions between Kumail and his friends. And while I understand why it was there, and I get why it was needed, I just didn't need it. And honestly, I think the biggest issue with the scenes involving Kumail's comedian friends is that it made me think of Don't Think Twice, and I enjoyed the chemistry of all those characters better in that movie. In fact, this movie reminds me a lot of the works of Mike Birbiglia. Now, I really like The Big Sick, and I also really like Don't Think Twice, and I really like Mike Birbiglia's first film, which is Sleepwalk with Me, and I think that that film is very similar to The Big Sick, because The Big Sick is a funny, funny film that feels incredibly personal, because it is something that Kumail lived through. And Sleepwalk with Me is a film that's incredibly funny, but it's also a movie that's very personal. And I love these sort of indie feel films that are about comedians and how personal they feel, because I really enjoy getting into the psyche or the emotional state of the people that I find to be so funny. To get back on track here, another issue I had with The Big Sick, much like a lot of Judd Apatow productions, this movie is a bit too long. Cut about 20 minutes out of this movie and I think you have a lot cleaner of a film. But all in all, I really enjoyed The Big Sick, and that's why I'm going to give The Big Sick an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching my review of The Big Sick. Let me know what you think of this movie, and let me know what your favorite film by a filmmaker is that just feels personal. A movie that a filmmaker had to get what he or she was saying just out, and the movie just oozes that filmmaker's personality, because I'd love to hear what are some of your favorites. As always, thank you for watching here at Razzle. Make sure to check out all of our other content. I'm Zachary Mourar. Follow me on Twitter at IamMourar. Follow Razzle on Twitter at Razzle Review. Thanks for watching.